Hello and welcome to Collusion the Gathering Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your Week 6 edition. I'm your host, Ben Ashworth, and joining me from a long hiatus, League Commissioner David Geeslin. How's it going?
Let's just say I run the league more effectively than my own team. It's a sacrificial thing to, someone has to dwell in the basement. I'm not just in the basement. I like to think of myself as more foundational, that everyone else is just built on top of me. But we'll get to my matchup eventually. We might have a special guest appearance from Callie Geeslin to talk about her matchup with Ben. But
boy,
she's wandering around upstairs right now. So we can dig into a different matchup first.
All right, well, let me know if she comes in and we can do a quick audible over. I'm kind of questioning why you, myself, and Thornton have been the talkers on this podcast, and we are at the bottom of the league.
And if Callie joins in, that rounds out the bottom four right there.
Rounds out the bottom four. So hopefully you guys near the top enjoy hearing something. We're going to go ahead and start with our first matchup. Will be Josh versus James, and Josh Yoshi throwing the beat down on James, 121 points to James's 95. So, Geese, what stands out to you?
Well, the first thing that stands out is James is on a 2-week losing streak. He was the envy of his league with his auto draft receivers, and not that they did terrible, but it is slightly, I guess, nice to see someone who auto draft come back down a peg a little bit. But the Mahomes train keeps on chugging for Yoshi, which is really impressive. Against the Patriots, it was really cool to see him really slow first half, but then picked it up in the second half, and that was an absolute shootout, crazy game, very entertaining.
Yeah, that was a great game to watch.
Yeah, and Saquon Barkley, aka Saquads, who has the most majestic hamstring quad combo of any human I've ever seen, just produces week in and week out, regardless of the fact that Eli Manning is like an absolute shell of the guy who won a Super Bowl a while back. But to be honest, if you think about it, those Super Bowls were a long time ago. Eli Manning has been getting worse and worse, and it has been bad for a while. So, anyway.
It was 2008 and 2011? I know they won in 2008. I can't remember this.
Yeah, we were definitely in college for one of them.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, Yoshi's team has definitely got solid performances. Receiver is not stellar, but having Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott is a fantastic 1-2 punch for running backs. Mahomes is really carrying his weight, and Gronk hasn't been his usual dominant self, but has been steady.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Just echoing what you said, Jarvis Landry, Cleveland wide receiver, only scored 1 point. Fitzgerald, 3.9. Larry Fitzgerald, Arizona wide receiver. But despite that, like you said, his running backs leading the way. Mahomes, the breakout quarterback of the season. And his kicker and defense, Bryant for Atlanta, the kicker, and the Minnesota defense, all posting solid points, 13 and 14 respectively. So Yoshi pretty much maximized his team, not much on his bench, really just Russell Wilson as his backup, scoring a respectable 20. But Yoshi really doing well. And as far as James, 95 is decent, if mediocre. One question I have for James is what Gostkowski, New England kicker, is doing on his bench with 22 points versus Elliott, the Philadelphia kicker, scoring 10, which is fine. But why do you have two kickers on your team?
Yeah. And why is the better one not playing?
Yes. So that's interesting. He's got the Rams defense, which started the season really good and has had a few stinker seasons. it makes me wonder in real life. I mean, the Rams look like the clear best team in the league, but does their defense have enough holes that they're not gonna go all the way this season? So I'm curious about that.
It is. Well, their top two corners were out for a little while, which certainly didn't help. It's also, I think naturally defensively you go into a little bit of a prevent mode when you have such a strong offense on the opposite side, because you don't. Yeah, like that you can give up a certain amount of points, and you're playing with a lead, so the other team is throwing a lot, and you're kind of playing a bend don't break. So, yeah, it's one thing, because a lot of times statistically the best defense in the league is not necessarily the one you fear the most.
Right.
But I mean, I still don't want to go up against Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, and when healthy, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and LaMarcus Joyner, so it's a very good group. But yeah, but fantasy-wise, not exactly the most productive right now. But someone's coming down the stairs.
Uh-oh.
Be the owner of Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Blunder?
Oh, Rolling Blunder. Whoops.
Rolling Blunder. Callie, what did you think about...
Blunder it was.
Callie, we had a sad matchup, 84 to 73. What was the choice words you had for some of the players on your team?
Well, my buddy Cook has left me wanting for many weeks. It's time he pulled his hamstring back together and got out there and actually
did something
worthwhile. Also, Amari Cooper could give me more than 3 points per game. That would be
sounds like his average. Maybe it's a little high. I don't know.
Yeah, he scored 0 for you this week.
I mean, this week is like a real excuse. He got concussed or whatever, but like
real,
even when
quote
he's
unquote real.
Yeah, even when he's perfectly healthy, he's apparently forgetting how to catch or run routes, which is weird because he was amazing in Alabama. His rookie year was solid, but he's
had I actually paid attention and put
Tariq Cohen in,
put a different running back in for Cook, I would have taken you. But
yes, you should have won. Tyreek Hill basically single-handedly won me the game on Sunday night. I was sitting like at 30-some points going into Sunday night, and you had 65 or something.
I had a chance.
Yeah,
and
Mason Crosby.
So yeah, Tariq Hill got 3 TDs. I was sharing with you guys. I hate Kansas City and I hate the Patriots, but it was a great game to watch. And then when Tyreek Hill caught that 70-plus yarder or something for his touchdown, I was jumping up and down and shouting just because of the fantasy implications.
I see that more times than not throughout David's Sundays.
The jumping and shouting, very nice.
Or screaming and tearing of hair.
I mean, it's more suppressed because it's usually during nap times, so it's It's like suppressed fervor.
It's not quite that exaggerated, but there are so many teams he's managing that it's complicated. It just gets complicated. It's like a bad girlfriend situation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that's like, really. So I'll take your word for it.
So Callie, you had 2 Minnesota running backs starting. Murray did come through for you with 21 points. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, it's surprising. I mean, it's exciting then, but my expectations for my future are low.
A lot of hot and cold guys.
There's no one really consistent.
Well, Drew Brees and Will Lutz, the Saints kicker, have been your MVPs, and that was the bye week for them. So, Ben, you really dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I did.
I'll see you in week 12.
Yeah, and Callie, you'd have a little bit of egg on your face. I saw you swapped Green Bay for the Chargers defense.
You want to know how the Chargers did?
I think they scored like 13 points.
Oh, come on! I had the Chargers the last few weeks, and then I just thought, switch it up, Cal.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I was very happy that they destroyed the Browns.
Mm.
But I really more had the egg. I mean, I'm really lucky I came away with this win because I had a bunch of people on my bench. I mean, just Deshaun Watson really let me down hard. He only scored 5.28 points. And I had Jameis Winston on the bench with 30. They said it was going to be a good matchup, but I was still hoping Watson would make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cooper Kupp and Calvin Ridley, my wide receivers, they both left their games early with injuries as well. So, yeah, I was the third lowest scorer in the league.
Okay, so I'll take last place this
There
week.
you go. Well, actually, your husband was last place. So the three lowest teams this week are on the call.
We're just trying to lift all the other managers up.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's right.
I'm in
well,
the cellar, some of the finance.
You can move on now.
Yeah, I get accused every week of talking too much or spending too much time on my matchup. So we're going to move on
It already
to
happened.
yeah. But we have a special guest, Callie. We're happy. We're delighted
You're welcome.
Thanks for being on the Squadcast.
I am.
Yeah,
I am
thanks
taking
for
a bow.
joining.
Feel
free to shout across the room other observations.
This guest appearance is brought to you by Starbucks Pumpkin Spice Lattes. Get your seasonal pumpkin spice.
If you are getting a check from Starbucks, please share it with me because this is this. Okay, so we're going to move on to Thornton and Ike, the closest matchup of the week, and Ike pulling it out with 120 points. Thornton continuing his bad beats with his high-scoring losses at 112. So Ike is putting it together with some impressive things. Mostly Aaron Rodgers is finally getting consistent with his heroic points in real life translating to fantasy, 28 points. And Todd Gurley just unstoppable for 34. Ironically, we had Melvin Gordon, the Chargers running back, at 33. He has had an amazing season so far as well. So it's kind of fun. They're on the same line and they're close, but just Ike just eking out the win. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers actually plays better with two legs versus one, which is,
it's amazing.
Maybe not a hot take, but no, it's always fun to watch Aaron Rodgers sort of go into the zone and just start. It's like when there's less than 2 minutes left, it's like, oh, here he goes. He's just going to rip them apart and take their souls.
There you go.
Drops dimes, but it's really just see how many points are on Thornton's bench. Really, just Matt Breida and Marquise Goodwin. So Marquise Goodwin for the Niners. He's been sort of expected, okay, he's going to be that deep threat in the San Francisco offense, but he had some injuries earlier in the year, and then Garoppolo went down, so he kind of was a lost cause a little bit, which is probably why he's on the bench for Thornton. But then he just exploded, even with C.J. Beathard throwing in the ball, and on top of that, Jared Goff decided to have an actual really mediocre game, ironically at Thornton's home team, against the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that's the story of this week for Thornton is Jared Goff throwing out a stinker with 7 points and kind of one of those fantasy versus my favorite team situations where you kind of want Goff to perform poorly so Denver could win. But unfortunately, Thornton got the worst of both worlds where Denver lost and Goff only posts 7 points. So, Andy Dalton on his bench, his backup QB, posting 17 would have won him. But it's hard to fault him. Goff has been good, similar to my, Deshaun Watson stinker. Just one of those weeks. And ultimately, Ike is showing a strong move here, with 3-3. Something we see in the standings is the records. There's a stratification. People are starting to fall in. Their records reflect their kind of total points and how good they are. Thornton's the exception where 2 and 4, a different draw, he would have a better record. But I've heard certain coaches say you are what your record says you are. So.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Parcells, to be clear. Don't give any Belichick any more credit. Or Bill Billick, coach of the Ravens, who won the Super Bowl, who I saw in Chicago on his cell phone one time when we were having lunch at the Viagra Circle in downtown, or in the Gold Coast.
Viagra Circle?
Viagra Triangle, yes.
I haven't heard of that phrase.
It's So how do I explain that?
Is it worth it in a podcast situation?
I mean, it's not inappropriate. No, it's just this little, it's not too far off from the state where Julia used to live. The joke is called Viagra Triangle because older rich guys bring younger women there.
I see. Okay, now that makes sense. Yeah. All right, well, congrats to Ike. Let's keep going. We're going to do Hangin with Hernandez versus Not Safe. So Gamroth with an extremely strong statement win, 143 points versus Jake's 118. Jake showing that his win over me, despite how salty I was last week, was not a fluke. He's got some decent role players, but Gamroth overtook James in first place last week, but they were virtually tied. Now Gamroth moves into the sole possession of the lead at 5-1. And to me, the story here is Gamroth sniping James Conner, Pittsburgh running back, taking your first overall pick spot, Le'Veon Bell. And so he basically has a great draft because of that, and Kareem Hunt is keeper. I mean, that's amazing. Baltimore with 11 sacks against Tennessee hits up 23 points on his team as well, and he just looks an unstoppable team. My hope is that Connor takes a drop off, maybe Le'Veon Bell comes back, and Gamroth doesn't just dominate this league, but he's looking scary.
No, he definitely is, and yeah, my only hope of coming back is a Le'Veon Bell situation, which did happen last year, is when he came back, took a week or two to rev up, but then carried a lot of people to amazing playoff runs. But yeah, his team certainly has the depth to really stay atop the standings for a while. Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are going to put up numbers. Edelman is a classic New England situation where you never quite know, but Kareem Hunt and Connor have been such steady producers for him. And Christian McCaffrey, like 6.6, that's much lower than expected. So usually McCaffrey's doing much better. But even look on his bench, Adrian Peterson has been producing. He's got the rookie Lindsey from Denver is doing well. Kenny Golladay is on bye, and T.Y. Hilton, who's injured, are both solid receiving options. So plethora of riches for him, which is, obviously to his credit, he's making good moves. And guys have been healthy. Looking over at Jake's, he's got might be the best receiver in the league right now is Adam Thielen.
Yeah,
because he's
certainly from a fantasy perspective,
absurdly consistent.
Yeah,
upper hovering around 20 points every game. Jimmy Graham's starting to put up some numbers. Eventually, Brady's getting a little bit more into form, and Butker, the kicker, is doing great for Kansas City because they're always scoring a lot of points there. Don't fault him for leaving Peyton Barber on the bench of Tampa Bay running back because he's done nothing pretty much the whole year. And his running backs for the most part actually were producing. With Tevin Coleman on the Falcons, Coleman has had very little competition because Devontae Freeman got hurt and hasn't been played and now is on IR. I would know that because he's on my team and with my 4th round pick, but whatever, I'm not bitter about it. But we'll talk about it. And Joe Mixon came back healthy, which is good. So, yeah, it's I guess in some ways you could call it a moral victory for Jake, and that his guys are performing well. He would have beaten a lot of the a lot of lower tier teams in the league.
Yes, for sure.
But he would have won. Yeah, he scored the fourth highest in the league this week. But
Yep.
it was a tough matchup for him. But hey,
Yeah, and Jake still had a respectable 3-3, and
playoffs started today. He did the final spot.
right, and he's still waiting for Leonard Fournette to come back. Do we know how long he's out for? I know he has a hamstring issue.
Yeah, it's been pretty mysterious about that. It's kind of a perpetual week to week update, but then I don't know.
That's a hard situation. Well, congrats to Gamroth. Good job to Jake. Let's go ahead. Are we on our last matchup already?
We are.
Okay. Geeslin, you lose to Dornbush. Dornbush gets 96. You get the league score is 61. I guess my question to you is, how are your other fantasy teams doing?
Much better, actually. Yes. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm actually in first place in one of them. Yeah.
That's great. I wanted to get your mind off of this situation a little bit.
I was looking at it earlier today and just looking back on my draft, because my first pick was Le'Veon Bell. My second pick was Jordan Howard, and then I was at the end, so it was Jordan Howard and Devontae Freeman were my second and third picks right there. And the next pick coming around, fourth pick, was Derrick Henry. So basically, Le'Veon hasn't played. Jordan Howard's been mediocre. Devontae Freeman basically hasn't played. Derrick Henry's been pretty much non-existent. So I'm getting nothing on my first four. Very little on my first four picks.
Not going to do well if that
That's
happens.
obviously, I only have myself to blame in terms of those selections. I could have made better picks, but Le'Veon Bell, there was all the expectation that he would play. So that's my griping. But Devontae Freeman just hurt his foot, separate injury. Now he's on the IR. So I need to do some scraping of free agency. Maybe we could try to get creative with a trade. But we really need people besides Roethlisberger to perform.
I have a lot of great running backs.
Yeah. Let's not forget about that Jacksonville reach in the draft.
I feel good about that.
Negative 1 point for you this week.
I blame that on Blake Bortles.
There you go.
But yeah, it's nice to see Sony Michel rounding into form, looking really good.
22 points for you.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be amazing every week, but at the same time, New England, because New England, and one of the reasons why they're such a good team is you don't know, you just basically can't, you don't know you can't predict what they're going to do each time. They can spread it out and go pass heavy. They can just set up in the I formation, just run it down the gut every time. They totally adapt each game. And this past game against the Chiefs, they ran it a lot, and Michelle was a benefactor from that. But at the same time, next game they're going to throw to Edelman a ton of times. Josh Gordon might score a few touchdowns. You never know. And that's part of the mad genius of Bill, Emperor Palpatine, Belichick.
Right. Well, Dornbush, not the strongest point total from him, but
kickers.
What's that?
Unless we're talking kickers.
Yeah, Mayer, Dallas kicker, 21 points, looks good, and then he had Adams, Green Bay wide receiver, with 25, very strong total. Rivers, his quarterback, only at 14, as the Chargers were way out ahead against Cleveland, and he didn't need to throw much. So that was awesome. But Dornbush is at a very respectable 4-2, and he had I think, really strong performances the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, he chose a good week to have a slight letdown.
Right, for sure. Let's see. Juju Smith-Schuster on his bench scored 13. And yeah, a few options. Juju's kind of up and down, but that was a little bit of a miss. Hyde, Cleveland running back, only 3 points. But yeah, there you go. Anything else to add?
As The Emperor would also say, I'm moving on to next week, you know?
Yeah.
I'm moving on to Yoshi.
On to Yoshi.
And
Okay.
if you just look at it right now, Yahoo's predicting that Yoshi and I are going to both score 90 points. So, you know, I've got a 50-50 chance to win it.
There you go. Anything could happen. If you run the table, you could still make the playoffs.
Yeah. Excellent point.
You are only 2 wins out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So.
No, I really need some Le'Veon to happen. Honestly, you look at the standings. Gamroth is number 1. I'm at number 10. Like, that says a lot about that pick. I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a better team overall still than me, but at the same time, like, would we be at the very top and the very bottom without the Le'Veon James Conner situation? Maybe not. But
yeah,
that is the ebbs and flows of fantasy and large men running into each other.
There you go. Well, that's our week 6 wrap up. We have our standings with Gamroth, as we said, at first with 5-1. James still in second, 4-2. Dornbush in third, 4-2, and then Yoshi in fourth, 4-2, just by his total points scored. So it's looking intense. Things, like I said, are starting to shake out with some definite tiers in our standings. A little week 7 preview. I will be playing Dornbush. Geese, as you said, will be playing Yoshi. Gamroth will be playing Callie. Thornton will be playing Jake. And James will be playing Ike. So, one thing we didn't say, Geese, is our manager of the week. Do you have any votes for manager of the week this week?
Definitely not me or Callie.
Yeah. My votes would either be, I don't know. I hate to have the manager of the week always be the highest points, but I mean, Gamroth has an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Maybe Ike is a nominee just because he had a close matchup. He had to win through, but he did leave a few guys on his bench.
Yeah, I would probably give it to Yoshi.
Okay.
Just because you look at, he basically did have his optimal lineup out there. And yeah, I'm just looking at it. Yeah, I think he optimized the most. Thornton had a nice move with Tyler Boyd, but he still had a bunch too many points on the bench.
Right. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for our week 6 fantasy football wrap up. Yoshi, congratulations on being the manager of the week, and Gamroth, congrats on leading the league. Good luck, everyone, at your setting up your week 7 rosters. That's it for us, and we'll talk to you next week.